As the screen fades from black, we're greeted by the serene landscape of Vietnam. Verdant mountains loom in the distance, cradling a river that sparkles under the radiant sunlight. A soft melody wafts through the air, a lullaby that's as old as the mountains themselves. This is a tale of a Vietnamese lullaby, a story of a humble boatman and a radiant princess. Join us, dear viewers, as we embark on a journey through their world, a world where music and dance are as essential as the air they breathe. Let's uncover the enchanting tale that is woven with notes of love, curiosity, and hope. Once upon a time, in the heart of Vietnam, a humble boatman played a charming flute. His melodies echoed through the valleys, reaching the ears of a radiant princess. Her heart danced to the rhythm, a dance of curiosity and joy. His name is Truong. Further in a village resided a tremendously wealthy mandarin, a proud father of one. His daughter named Mi Nuong. With beauty rivaling that of lotus blossoms, the mandarin cherished his daughter dearly, even beyond all his vast fortunes. A testament to his profound love for Mi Nuong, he wished to shield her from any harm, confining her in her room located at the pinnacle of his grand mansion perched on a hilltop. Thus, she was never permitted to leave. Day and night, the beautiful Mi Nuong would stay in her room, clothed with the finest gowns of silk, adorned by the servants with all the delicious meals, and entertained by the best musicians and poets in the kingdom with melodies and ballads that delights the heart. But all of her joys were confined inside her beautiful chamber. Her toes had never set foot on the dewy grass, her hands never had plucked fruits from trees, her fingers never had run the trickling river, nor she ever played and told stories with other children apart from her loyal servants. The only sunlight that ever touched her cheeks was the few pale beams that peeked through her royal window. One day, as the Mi Nuong sat by the window, looking at the rivers below and enjoying the sight of the charming boats gliding gracefully across the water, one small boat caught her eye. From afar, Mi Nuong could see how the Truong, the boatman, stood and skillfully steered the small boat into the water's most serene spot, sat, and placed a bamboo flute against his lips. Soon after, the most haunting, beautiful melody the girl had ever heard drifted up to her window. The music from the tiny flute was as soothing as the sound of the gentle breeze. The flowing river and the nightingale's hymn beautifully blended into heartwarming tones that deeply touched the girl's heart. As Mi Nuong watched and listened, the girl imagined how young, strong, and handsome the boatman could be up close. And all that day, the Mi Nuong stayed by the window until the sun began to set over the tall mountains beside the river. She watched as the Truong steered his small boat away until he was nowhere in sight. That night, Mi Nuong dreamt of the same beautiful melody and pictured herself stepping into the boat with a young man. Both, they drifted along the calm and quiet river while the full moon lit above them. The boatman explained to her all the strange and wonderful sights that unfolded before them. For the first time, Mi Nuong had seen the things only made known to her from the poet's tales. She touched the cool river water trailing beside the boat. She felt the gentle kiss of evening breeze against her cheeks, and she smelled the sweet fragrance of wild orchids that hang from the trees as they sailed by. A smile flickered across her lips as she dreamt on. Climbing out of the boat, the young man held her by his strong arms, and at the sight of the meadow, she ran across to pluck wild berries while enjoying the gentle feel of fresh grass brushing against her feet. The pleasantly sour taste of newly plucked berries was far more delightful than any other fruits adorned on her table. She felt the young man tightly holding her as the loud, trembling roar, the green-eyed tiger, echoed from the jungle, only to awaken to the sound of the brass gong. Right after she got off her gentle bed, Mi Nuong walked straight to the window and looked below, hoping to catch a glimpse of the tiny small boat once again. Her heart beat fast at the sight of the little boat, and when the haunting music from the Truong bamboo flute began to float up to her window, her heart melted. Again, Mi Nuong remained by the window the whole day until she knew the tunes he played by heart. Whenever the boat comes close to the foot of the hill, Mi Nuong drops little flower petals, hoping the wind would carry them to the boatman. From afar, Truong had caught one of the petals blown along by the wind. He could see a tiny figure by the window of the huge mansion atop the hill. He could tell it is a girl, but could only guess what she might look like. For him, knowing she was listening to his music made him pour his heart and soul into every melody. One day, a gentleman he was ferrying across the river noticed the fine quality of Truong music and asked the boatman to whom he plays his bamboo flute for. The boatman smiled timidly and looked towards the tiny window on the hill. I do not know her name, but she comes by that window every day and drops flower petals to show her approval. The gentleman looked up the mansion, laughed, and said, "You are a fool, young boatman. That is the mandarin's daughter, the most beautiful girl in this land, sought after by the wealthiest and most powerful men in the kingdom. How could you be so foolish to believe she would fancy a common plain boatman like you?" Truong said nothing, but he sadly put his flute away and steered the boat down the river before darkness sets in. His hopes that the girl by the window would somehow love him have shattered, and thought he would not dare to see her face. Hence, he would never have peace again. From then, Truong decided to no longer be part of that river. When morning came, Min Wong once again waited by the window, but the small boat was nowhere in sight. As the day wore on, Min Wong sat and waited, yet the boatman never came. Her heart grew heavy and tears rolled from her dark, sad eyes. More days passed by. Still she did not see the boatman again. But she never stopped waiting. Day and night she would sit by the window and refuses to lie in her bed. And day after day, as Min Wong stares at the river below, endlessly waiting to catch a glimpse of the small boat, and longing for the sweet music of the bamboo flute, the mandarin's daughter started to grow weak. Soon she fell ill. The servants laid Min Wong on bed and summoned her father. When the mandarin learned of the boatman, he became furious. Instead, he decided to gather all the best physicians in the kingdom to make his daughter well, but none of them could make the girl feel better, and as the days passed, she grew weaker and more fragile. The mandarin was in distraught as he wept over his daughter. Realizing nothing could seem to cure her, he finally ordered his servants to search the rivers for this man who used to play a bamboo flute in a small boat. The king's men searched the villages and the rivers. Soon they returned to the mansion along with a trembling and scared Truong. With the flute on his hand, he wondered what crime he had committed and why he was summoned for. "Are you the young man who had been playing music from your flute for my daughter?" the mandarin demanded. Truong immediately nodded. "It seems your simple music had charmed my daughter. Now she is very ill. I have been searching the lands for the finest husband for my daughter. But if your tunes will restore her spirit, then I would welcome you to seek her hand, and if she so agrees, I would never stand apart. Play your flute again, young boatman, and if my daughter chooses you above the others, then so be it." Truong stood amazed. His hopes of winning the heart of the girl by the window were again relived. With a surge of encouragement and joy from his heart, he raised his flute, pressed them against his lips and began to play the sweetest melody that ever drifted the palace. Soon the tender, warm notes filled the empty halls of the grand house and reached the bed where the girl lays. With the familiar sound, it didn't take long until Min Wong opened her eyes, and slowly, a smile touched her lips. In a faint voice, Min Wong whispered, "He has returned." She then begged her handmaiden to help her to her feet. With renewed strength, she walked through the halls and searched where the beautiful music was springing from. Her heart pounded as she saw a strong young man at the end of the hall playing a bamboo flute. And with every step that takes her closer to the end of the hall, the pounding of her heart grows stronger. But as Min Wong came nearer and nearer, her eyes slowly started to grow cold. Contrary to the handsome boatman in her dreams, up close before her, the man with the flute had an uncomely face and an appearance she could never love. Out of politeness, Min Wong gave a slight bow, thanked the young man and asked her father to repay him for his kindness. Returning to her room, she wondered how she became foolish to dream about a simple boatman. She then vowed never to sit by the window again and fancy a boatman from afar. Truong heart was torn apart. Having gazed on a face men would only see in their dreams, he knew his heart would never be at peace. Refusing the bag of gold the mandarin offered, he left the palace with heavy footsteps. He lost all his desire to play his flute, as it would only remind him of the beautiful girl who used to drop flower petals by the mansion window. He avoided the rivers as he could see the reflection of her beautiful face on the trailing water. His longing for the girl he knew could never love him had caused his heart to ache greatly, and as time passed by, Truong laid and died of a broken heart. But villagers who came to send Truong down the river on a farewell voyage never found his body, nor could they see where the flute had gone. Instead, an exquisite piece of pure green jade lies on his bed. They took the jade to a carver, who shaped the gem into a beautiful drinking goblet. Time passed by and everyone had forgotten the music of the boatman that used to charm the village. One day, the Mandarin had ordered his servants to search the land for the most precious present he could give to his daughter. One of his servants made his way to the boatman's old village, where one of the peasants sold the goblet for a bag of gold. And soon, the beautiful jaded goblet made its way to the Mandarin's palace. Fascinated by the precious gift, the Mandarin ordered the handmaiden to serve her daughter her water with nothing else but the jaded goblet. Minuang welcomed the valuable present, and when she lifted the goblet to her lips for the first time, Minuang heard a melancholic tune she had never heard for a very long time. The melody was sad but beautiful. Then as Minuang sipped water from it, she saw at the bottom of the cup the image of a small boat and the young boatman steering it down the peaceful river. Suddenly, the Minuang remembered the joy she used to feel when she hears the boatman's music. Since he had left, not one handsome man from the land had ever made her feel such warmth and happiness. Her days and nights seemed longer and emptier than the time she used to sit by the window. With that, Minuang's heart ached with remorse, and tears filled her eyes. As our tale of the boatman and the princess draws to a close, we are left with a powerful message echoing in our hearts: the value of genuine emotions, the importance of appreciating the simple joys in life, and the reminder to look beyond the surface to the melody of a person's heart. Let us carry these lessons with us as we navigate our own rivers of life. Good night, dear viewers. May your dreams be as enchanting as a Vietnamese lullaby and as peaceful as the river under the boatman's watchful gaze.